From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
5 minutes past the hour. As I said right before the end of the last hour, Frank Gilliam Jr. is here, a longtime council member at large in Atlantic City, immediate past city council president, had a very good run when he was the council president. A lot of the development that you see and things that are happening, in fairness, were trips that both Frank and George Tibbett took together when you were bringing some key partners into Atlantic City. Let's be fair about that. But let me just hit this alleged controversy because it's old news to me because we've been covering it since the moment that I learned that Craig Calloway had a very organized effort that the mail-in voting process was going to be utilized at a level that it's never been utilized before because the system permits it.
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you for allowing me to come on this morning, Harry. Sure. But this is what we need to educate the public about. A mail-in ballot is no different than going to the poll and casting a ballot. And for some odd reason, in Atlantic County, we've made it some kind of criminal offense by allowing folks to mail in or a messenger ballot. The other thing that I find to be very disturbing is that we would have a mayor who wants to be a leader of a town putting together a sting operation and sort of creating a criminal mind element where he's had folks come into my campaign headquarters with his Don Guardian shirts on, inside out, asking us about absentees, knowing very well that our campaign does not utilize that apparatus. It's also very disingenuous when a mayor will come over to you and say, well, I'm going to get you on voter fraud. So all these things are pretty much premeditated, and it's kind of juvenile, but at the same time, it's disturbing because he's willing to go that low to try to win an election with an operation that's totally legal.
So I heard you in no unspoken terms, in very clear language. Mayor Don Guardian told you that he was going to get you on voter fraud?
Absolutely.
So
we were at Uptown Complex after the debate. I went over and said something to him. He says, I'm going to get you on voter fraud. And my response was, I dare you try because we don't do anything with the ballot.
WPG Talk Radio.
Is anything other than
104.1.
I think they're doing a better job than ever before? Is there really anything that's going on now that didn't go on 4 years ago?
Well, that's a good point. Because when you think about it, Don Guardian also used this same operation for his get out the vote efforts. But it's odd how it's permissible for him and non-illegal for him, but when someone else is utilizing it, it's now all this criminal activity or criminal behavior. But again, like I said, it's political season, it's campaign season, people get desperate, and this is just one of those desperate measures that I see Don Guardian taking, trying to discredit my name. Because think about it, the ballot issue doesn't even have anything to do with Frank Gilliam's campaign, actually, but they're trying to tie the two and disenfranchise voters and put a stain on me that I find to be very disrespectful, because I made it my business to run a clean and above board campaign, and we're always going to do that. But at this particular point in time, I thought it was very important for the public to understand what type of mindset Don Guardian actually has.
So on the first point, that means they've determined that these ballots will not be a benefit to them.
Yeah,
I have to say that because that's got to be a fair comment.
Yeah, but because when you think about it, right, again, Don utilized these to win his last election.
So then I want to flip the script. So in other words, it was good 4 years ago and it is bad 4 years later. So basically, it's a matter of who is going to benefit. Here's the other thing, too. If you're just looking at an election where no one like a Craig Calloway is working towards bringing out the vote, and obviously I don't think there's any secret about this, the Calloway ballots over the entire course of history, when they weren't very accomplished at doing it and made some mistakes, to when they got better at it, to when the law actually changed or it was codified, where now it's much more liberal, how it's being construed that you can vote. It used to be if you were a young adult and you were at school, you could do an absentee ballot. If you were in the hospital, you could do it. You could have a messenger if on election day you were too sick. I remember one year, and it wound up tying an election in Ventnor. There was a dear friend of mine. He was in the hospital, and I didn't even know what a messenger ballot was back then. This is like before my broadcasting career. Somebody was a messenger, went to see him, did all the things that legally can be done, and that person was able to vote that was in the hospital, and he tied the election. I didn't even know what a messenger was in that era. Well, it's more utilized now. And I guess the point, Councilman Gilliam, that I'm trying to make is in terms of the process, for those that don't like it because they see that it's disproportionately advantaging one side, whether it was Mayor Guardian 4 years ago or very possibly Councilman Gilliam 4 years later, that's just the way that it goes. If somebody is actively playing by the rules and doing this process, the thing that some people, I think, misconstrue here is they say, well, according to the book, the messengers and all absentee and all these different ways of voting by mail should fall the same way that it does at the voting machine. That would be if no one was out there participating actively.
Right.
So to me, and I've gone around the world with this issue, there's no difference between a legal ballot that is done by mail and a legal ballot that is cast at the voting machine.
You're absolutely.
They have to be weighted the same.
You're absolutely right.
And judges always have weighted them the same.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. But this is what I want the listening audience to understand. Frank Gilliam is not depending on ABs or messengers. Frank Gilliam and his team has been on the streets for the past 9 months, knocking on every door, meeting every person that we thought that we can actually get a vote from. So it's not like I'm depending on ABs.
In other words, you're not looking to lose at the polls and only win by virtue of a significant number of mail-in ballots.
Yeah, I'm a gamer, Harry. It's about playing the game. So, again, if there's points to get in the paint, I want points in the paint. If it's points to get in the perimeter, I want points in the perimeter. If it's points to get off of offensive rebounds, I want every point that I can possibly get to win. So absentee ballots is a mechanism, but it's not the only one because we're still depending on having people come out and cast their vote at the poll.
This is not a surprise for you to hear me say it because I know you've heard me say it, and I've written it in at least 5 or more columns over the course of the past year. I have believed from the beginning that what I am calling the Craig Callaway effort, and I know it's not just him, it's his brother David, and there's some other people. But, Craig is the person that most people know more prominently than any other name that we could put out there. I have believed that his effort will be what I call determinative. And that means that in certain elections, it's going to be the difference in terms of who wins and who loses. I think that will bear out this Tuesday night when all the votes are counted and we see who's winning at the polls and, how many ballots haven't been counted out of Atlantic City or Pleasantville, because this is going to impact the race for sheriff. I think that absolutely Craig's effort in Atlantic City and Pleasantville will determine who the next sheriff is. I believe that. It could determine who the next senator is. It could determine who the next assembly person is, 1 or 2, and some of the other freeholder at large races.
WPG
I think that's a
Talk
reasonable
Radio,
comment.
That's a reasonable comment because, again, when folks have realized that there's a mechanism that can add to something, you'll almost be a fool not to take advantage of it because everyone gets in this race to do what? They want to win. And at the end of the day, I think that it's more important for us to educate the public on what this process is because a lot of folks are being misled with these antics, so to say, to find ways to discredit people. And just for the record, Frank Gilliam has never been indicted or questioned on any kind of voter inconsistencies or fraud or any of those magnitudes. Why would I start now when I've basically been a council person for two terms? None of this has ever came up besides the last primary where, again, the person that I was running against was the individual who was indicted. So it's kind of ironic.
When you ran 4 years ago, you did not benefit from any of the mail-in ballots, correct?
Correct.
You were disadvantaged by
Right.
them.
Absolutely.
You were able to still win. Mayor Langford was not able to win.
Correct.
That's what I mean by determinative. It was the difference in that particular race. Let's get our first break in. Our first caller when we come back will be you. Hang in there. We don't screen the calls. First one that calls in gets on, and we do it in the order of your calls. We have a lot more that we want to cover. I do want to drill down on one last thing about this when we come back, and that is because this alleged, and I know the writer very, very well from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and we sometimes communicate with one another through Facebook, or if I'm writing a story, I see her occasionally on it with a comment or things like that. So I know the writer. I'm trying to find out, and I think you're in a position to be able to delineate, and I think you already have to a large degree. Is there any there? Because this is made to look like, oh my gosh, they have retired state police officers, and the guy was an informant, and all the buzzwords to make it look like a criminal syndicate has been caught red-handed, paying cash, and it's out of the Gilliam headquarters. And I just want to sort of break down, is there anything here other than someone that's lawfully using to the maximum advantage the law as it is now, and as judges have codified the law with respect to being able to vote by mail at a level that we've never seen before, because it's now open. You don't need to be sick. You don't need to be at school. You don't need to be away on vacation.
Right.
You could vote by mail for any reason you choose. So I want to just get that out there, because in fairness, a few days before the election, this is making it look like crimes have been committed and informants and law enforcement
WPG
officers
Talk Radio
have caught the criminals,
104.1.
and we got you, and you're paying us money, and it's out of this guy's this and that. And I just want to nail down what it is, and in fairness, what it isn't. But we'll take your call that I told next. We'll get this in during the hour.
Hi, it's Brian Kilmeade. Join me next at 10, then Sean Hannity at 3. Now back to Harry Hurley on WPG Talk Radio, 104.1, South Jersey's talk station.
We're going to go to your calls. We're visiting with Atlantic City Councilman at Large, Frank Gilliam, Jr., who is the Democratic nominee for mayor of Atlantic City. Election Day, 6 days from now, on Tuesday, November 7th. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning with the candidate. You're on the air, caller. Go right ahead.
Hi, this is Stacey Camerman. I'm running for council at large on Mayor's Guardian's ticket.
Stacey, nice to take your call.
Yeah, I am very upset about this situation, and I think it's a slap in the face to every man and woman who ever put on a uniform to protect our right to vote. We have preserved this democracy in this country for 200 years, and this is happening in Atlantic City. Atlantic City cannot be bought. They are buying votes. It is illegal to pay someone and tell them how to vote. It is illegal to fill out a ballot and hand it to Callaway. Frank, I really think that you should join us in denouncing this terrible, this illegal crimes that are going on. As a leader, you should be standing by the citizens of Atlantic City.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your call. I've always stood behind the people of Atlantic City. That's why they voted for me twice to represent them as their council at large. Again, it's very important for you and other people to learn the facts about what's actually being spilled out, because no one's paying for a vote. If you look back maybe 2 months ago when the county literally
Did you
told
read the article?
The article is skewed by a person who's a supporter of you guys. So when you talk about someone handing a ballot or someone signing something,
by a Philadelphia reporter.
Oh yeah, it's done by a Philadelphia reporter that's the supporter of Don Guardian, which is not a problem. But this is what we want to fact find. We want to know what facts are. You're coming on.
I do too, and that's why we should bring this to the prosecutor's office.
And the fact of the matter is, you may not have listened in early when Harry told the folks that this is a legal process. And for some odd reason,
it's being done illegally, Frank, and you know it.
That's your opinion. And when you become a lawyer, I may not hire you because you're coming on the radio with false advertisement.
Let's break down the one point that Stacey is saying, because
WPG
there is
Talk Radio
a portion of the population out there that are saying that the people are being paid to vote and told who to vote for. My understanding, and I went out last week to observe it taking place, they're coming to the Atlantic County Court
Correct.
area that Clerk McGettigan, and was a story that we actually broke before it was really out in the public consumption, that they would take the middle courtroom and they would turn it into basically almost an Atlantic City, Pleasantville type operation, because that's where most of the mail-ins with respect to messenger and the process that's been utilized was taking place. So they would come in, they'd have the signature the messenger would have of the voter. It would be reviewed by Tom Summers. I watched him do it, and then I watched him both accept and reject some.
Correct.
So it wasn't 100% acceptance at all. In fact, I saw more rejected while I was there than accepted. What I'm trying to find out, Stacey, is there any proof that actual votes are being paid for? In other words, I will give you $30 if you sign right here and you vote for this one, this one, this one, this one, and thank you very much. And then they take custody of the ballot. I haven't seen that happen.
It has not happened.
Right.
I know
That's
that there's
exactly what is happening. Harry.
That has not.
Exactly what's happening.
But let me ask you, Stacey, what's happening then when I saw what I saw? Because that wasn't that at all.
Maybe it wasn't happening in front of you. I'm not sure. People have come and they are testifying to it, and there's a lot more to that article, and that's why we need the prosecutor, the FBI, people to investigate this.
Do you think anything's going on now that didn't go on in June, that didn't go on 4 years ago in the election then, at that time? Or is just more of it going on now? Is anything different now than it was then? You might not know, Stacey, because you weren't necessarily involved, but you were alive, so you were paying attention.
Right.
I was going to call you Mayor. Councilman Gilliam, is anything different now than it was 4 years ago?
No, it is not. The difference is that
except perhaps that Craig Calloway is better at it now.
The efforts are ramped up more, and you also have to realize that there's more votes for a Democrat in Atlantic City to receive through this process, because there's not many. There's a disparaging difference between the number of Democrats and Republicans. But again, Ms. Cameron, I appreciate your call, but I do disagree with the fact that Frank Gilliam is involved with any illegal activities, which I've never been. We're going to continue to allow folks to vote the way that the law allows them to, and I'm looking forward to people coming out to polls. I'm also looking forward to taking advantage of some of the ABs that are out there surfacing. But
let me interject. Before you, Stacey, let me interject, because I want to get your comment on this. There was a big brouhaha about this ballot, and it had Gilliam and it had Tibbet, and I forget, maybe Murphy. So these three dots were all colored in, and it was, oh my gosh, it was the Brinks job, and all hell was going to rain down. The whole thing was turned over to the Attorney General. I had the letter. I read the letter on the air. The Attorney General said there's no there. There's just an extraneous ballot that had been started and accidentally got put back into the pile, and that it was given out. And I know it sounds like fantastical to quote a local judge or a federal judge recently about Margate City, who used that term about the Dunes Project. But it turned out that of all people, Jesse Kurtz, it's just you couldn't write this stuff only in Atlantic City. But I really do believe that that's the way that actually happened. Some people don't agree that that's the way that it happened and thought that the Attorney General should have done more. What are the chances now, 6 days before the election, that law enforcement is actually looking at this in the way that you think it's going down as a criminal enterprise?
Well, I hope they certainly are, and that's why I called in, because I think that, Frank, if you don't believe there's any illegal activity, don't you think we should be looking into it more? Why is this coming out if there's no illegal activity? Don't you think it should be investigated? And if there is illegal activity, would you denounce this activity, and would you stand with us to ask for the prosecutor to look into this? And
this is quite obviously a setup call. But Frank Gilliam is never going to stand on the side of any.
I am an Atlantic City resident.
May I speak?
About this.
May I speak? Thank you. I will never stand on the side of any illegalities. I'm always going to stand on the side of what's right. Whenever I find something to be wrong, I've always stood up for it, and I'm going to stand up for what is wrong now. But until someone shows me where something is wrong, then I'm not going to denounce anything at this moment because I'm not sure you are clear on how the process actually works.
I am clear. Thank you.
Stacey, don't go away because this is a perfect opportunity that probably only this program could deliver, and that's to have all sides addressing an issue. And here's one of your opponents, Councilman George Tibbett. Stacey, stay with us because you might want to respond. Councilman Tibbett, you're on the air with Stacey Cameraman, candidate, obviously, for the seat that you hold. 3 open seats in this election on Tuesday for at-large council. And, of course, the mayor of Atlantic City on the line 6 days from today. Councilman Tibbett, your thoughts about what's been said so far?
WPG
Well,
Radio,
Harry,
4.1.
I'm going to agree with Ms. Cameraman. There was a crime committed. Don Guardian and 3 co-conspirators conspired to commit fraud with absentee ballots. They hired someone that that says in the newspaper that he committed fraud. He was the messenger that claims that he did something wrong, hired by Don Guardian. They committed a crime. They knowingly and willingly attempted to commit fraud. But we're all about the law now, Ms. Cameraman, but the law also says you must live in Atlantic City prior to running for office. You did not. We were going to send pizza to your house when you were living in Ventnor, paid for it for you and your family, just to show you we knew, and we never pulled it up. We never did that to you. So now let's get back to the law. Let's get back to the law.
Wait, George, just for 1 second, George, because you brought that up. I want to give Stacey an opportunity to respond to the residency issue. Go ahead, Stacey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to respond to it and get back to what's important in this. That is the illegal.
Absolutely.
activity.
Let's just not talk about your fake residency.
The response to that is I would never have been able to run for council if the city clerk and the county clerk did not clear me running for council. They hand me a packet when I'm ready to run, and that's how it works. So I don't know what you're talking about, and it's not a concern of mine.
Let me ask you only because I've never had the chance to ask you this, Stacey. Is there any truth to what Councilman Tibbett is saying? Did you actually live in Ventnor and just certify, and nobody challenged it, so it was never looked into? Did you live in Ventnor, or did you live in Atlantic City? Is it that I think the law, forgive me, I'm a little rusty on this, I think you have to live in Atlantic City or any city within Atlantic County or New Jersey, for that matter, for 1 year prior to being a candidate. Is that correct?
Correct.
So were you living in Atlantic City full time as your resident for at least a year prior to running?
Correct. And I had to give them proof of that at the clerk's office.
Councilman Tibbett, anything else on that point?
Yeah, you don't give no proof at all. You turn your paperwork in, you sign it. It's up to someone else. We stood on your house, Stacey. We watched you and your husband come in and out of your house in Ventnor Heights. You just told it. Stop lying.
Stacey,
you want to get on here. You want to get on here and read a prepared script that was prepared for you. I had a lot of respect for you growing up, but you've been a put-up candidate. You don't put your best foot forward. You don't put your best foot forward. We witnessed it with our own eyes, you and your husband. You want to talk about crime in Atlantic City? Let's talk about crime in Atlantic City. Every single debate, every resident sits up there and says that there's a deployment issue.
All right, let me do this. Let me jump in real quick. We've got to get a break in. We're going to come back. Stacey, I'm inviting you, Stacey, to please stay, and Councilman Tibbett to stay, and then we'll get to as many calls as we can as we continue our discussion all about Atlantic City and the upcoming Tuesday, November 7th election. We have Atlantic City Councilman at Large, Frank Gilliam Jr. We have Atlantic City Councilman at Large, George Tibbett. We have Atlantic City Council at Large candidate Stacey Cameraman. I am Hurley in the Morning, and this is the undisputed, most relevant two-way talk radio broadcast in New Jersey history. Humbly yours. I am Hurley in the Morning on WPG.
Hurley in the Morning.
With Frank Gilliam Jr., candidate for mayor, we have George Tibbett, Councilman at Large in Atlantic City, and Council at Large candidate Stacey Cameraman. George, you were saying right before the break.
All right, Harry, I'm going to get off in 3 minutes. I don't want to steal Frank's time, but let's break the facts down. 2,100 absentee and messenger ballots so far. One person claimed that something was wrong with the ballot, of which this person has spent much of his life in Rikers Island, according to his social media. This person is a strong follower of Reverend Days of the Second Baptist Church, the only priest to support Don Guardian. Isn't it kind of ironic that Don Guardian sends the people in with 2 state troopers, ex-state troopers, and the only thing he admitted was when you go and get as a messenger that you agree not to break the law and that you will only give those messengers to the people that you are signing them out for. Their person broke the law. Harry, I could be a messenger and I could give you 3 ballots. You didn't break the law, Harry. I broke the law.
Here's the thing about this point, George. I didn't consider what you said until you brought it up. Unless law enforcement sanctioned a sting operation, anybody that goes and does that
is breaking the law.
They actually
absolutely
broke the law. Now, maybe law enforcement would say, hey, thanks a lot. You're retired guys that used to be on the job, but you're not now. So if this was not sanctioned, and I don't think it would have been because it would have been actual law enforcement.
Correct.
And it wouldn't have been former law enforcement. You have a very good point. I mean, this would be very ironic if everybody is expecting one side to have a legal problem when it could be the other side.
Harry, this is as phony as the statement Mrs. Cameron had trouble reading this morning. This is phony. It's unbelievable. You want to stick to the law? Have your husband get more cops on the street. With 9 people in patrol per shift, 9 to 11, that's the real problem with Atlantic City. Spend your time getting your husband to get more people on the street.
Miss Cameron,
the illegal activity that your campaign is doing.
No. Mayor Guardian committed.
Miss Cameron.
Trying to change the topic.
The
illegal activity that is happening out of Gilliam's headquarters.
And that's where I find it to be very disingenuous, Miss Cameron, because again, if you read the article. The gentleman said
the article that he came out of your headquarters.
And came out of my headquarters. Frank Gilliam does not do absentee ballot drives out of my headquarters. If you understood what was stated, they opened up the election office Saturday to allow people to come out and early vote. So there wasn't a absentee drive.
So they did come out of your headquarters, correct?
Again,
I can come out of your bar. It doesn't mean you committed the crime.
Right, but listen to this, Miss Cameron. I would have more respect for Don Guardian if he would have got on the radio and asked these questions. Why would he send a woman?
I'm sure he'll have plenty of time to be on the radio.
But
I wanted to call in myself because I am so upset about the fact that this.
Oh, I'm so upset.
You would not be upset. You would not be upset if you were the entity that would be receiving these ballots.
Yes, I would. I would never allow that to happen, Frank.
You're
and if you're allowing that to happen, you're allowing it to happen. I would never let that happen.
Let me, as a guy that's not on the ballot, everybody else is on the ballot except me. I'm just the mayor in the morning. Stacy, were you? I don't remember you calling me 4 years ago. And you know I'm a friend of Don's, so this is just being fair here. It's not taking sides. It's being fair. And we're going to interview Don one more time before the end of this week, and he can certainly speak about this for himself then. But I don't remember you calling me 4 years ago and saying that we need the prosecutor, the attorney general, the FBI, everybody, because Mayor Guardian was the benefactor 4 years ago of this exact same process. Was it great then and criminal now? Was it criminal then and criminal now? I mean, what is it, Stacey? Let's be fair.
Okay. So let's be fair in the facts. And the facts are that Mayor Guardian did not hire the Callaways. And we need to see who are paying the Callaways. Who are paying for those vans that they're driving?
Election report allows you to go on to the board.
Yes, so why don't you check it out? Because it doesn't say anywhere that the Callaways were paid for by Mayor Guardian's campaign.
Nor does it say anywhere that those guys are being paid for by Frank Gilliam or his campaign. So
they're working out of your headquarters.
They're not working out of my headquarters, Ms. Cameraman.
So let me ask. Well, let me stay on this because it's like a dog on a bone. So 4 years ago, Mayor Guardian was the recipient of the same exact process because
WPG Talk
charity
Radio
is a beautiful thing. It starts at
104.1.
home. Somebody paid somebody 4 years ago. So how do you explain whoever the benefactor is? You can't discount that. Frank's explaining how it is going this time, but it happened 4 years ago. The difference is it happened the other way 4 years ago, right?
Correct.
Isn't that, I mean, that's fair.
And that's why I'm trying to give Ms. Cameraman the benefit of the doubt to understand the facts before she just talks from emotions.
I understand the facts.
The facts of the matter is that Mayor Guardian used the same process. Frank Gilliam is now
illegal activity that happened 4 years ago. Then it should have been exposed. But as far as I know, Mayor Guardian did not hire the Callaways.
Frank Gilliam did not hire the Callaways. So again, you're using the same excuse. So if you want to look,
them then, Frank? Who hired them?
Who hired them for Don?
I'm asking you, who hired them for you in this campaign?
No one hired them for me. Listen to this.
The vans that they drive around in, Frank, because it has to be put into your election report.
You're absolutely right.
Report.
So did you look at my reports?
Who's paying for all that?
You asked them.
I'm asking you.
If I don't hire them and they don't work for me, how would I give you information on what their operation is?
Yeah, they work out of your
Harry, let me give you something. I'm going to try and score an interview for you with Craig Calloway. I'll tell you why. I spoke to Craig Calloway 2 days ago when I seen him on the street. You know what Craig Calloway told me? Don Guardian's been begging him up to 2 weeks ago to work for him. Are you surprised at that, Miss Cameraman? There's text messages and emails from people from Don Guardian's camp begging Craig to work for him. Just like he worked for him the last election. But when the votes go for a white person, they're perfectly legal. But now they're filled with minorities. Now it's got to be illegal. One person out of 2,300 people, the one person that you and your camp sent in there trying to do a sting operation, it backfired.
We're not talking about that anymore. We're talking about the new information that came out.
Listen,
we're talking about
this report is
people that are
as phony as your address you used to run in this campaign.
Ms. Cameraman, Ms. Cameraman, I thank you for your interest. However, you have to go fact find a little more before you come on air spewing out things that you're not very clear on. Because
I'm very clear.
Because listen. Answer my question. No. I'm not. I'm on topic. I've never been off topic because again, you stated that I'm doing something illegal. You stated that the Callaways are working out of my headquarters. You stated that someone's paying for them, but I'm stating back to you that they don't work out of my headquarters. I'm not paying for them, and if we basically rewind the tape, let me finish. If we rewind the time 4 years ago, this same process was in activity. So why is it that you're saying or trying to put illegal ramifications on my campaign headquarters when, in fact, there has not been a legitimate sting?
Now, the other thing I'm going to drill down very, very hard on is I've known Councilman George Tibbet for more than 20 years, probably more than 25 years. He just made the comment 2 minutes ago that Mayor Don Guardian, as recently as 2 weeks ago, wanted Craig Calloway working for him. Now, if this is criminal, Stacey, and if that is true, do you have a comment about that?
Well, I've been listening to George a lot over these last few months, and a lot of things that he says are not true. So I certainly am not going to believe him now. He has a record.
Well, how about if it is true? How about if it is true? What would you say?
I just can't believe it's true.
But if it were true, would you be calling for the prosecutor, the FBI, the CIA?
I would absolutely be calling for an investigation into anything illegal. People can work and go out and get the vote out and all that great stuff, and we pay people to do that.
All right, here's what I want to do. I've got to get the final break in. We've got to jump for now. Stacey, I thank you. And please, I'm here every day. Feel free to call in anytime that you want that I'm obviously not with the scheduled segment. And we'll talk again. And Councilman Tibbet, hold on, because I want to score that interview with Craig Calloway, because you're reading my mind. Even before this hour started, I wanted to interview Craig because, as you know, Councilman Tibbet, I went out to the Atlanta County Clerk's office, and I wanted to see exactly how this works. I watched the van pull in. I spoke to Craig for a few minutes. I went into the courtroom, the middle courtroom. I watched Mike Summers, and forgive me, I was calling him Tom earlier in the program, and it was brought to my attention. I spoke with Mike Summers in between when he was working with voters and with messengers, and I asked him a lot of probative questions about matching signatures and what's going on here and why is it in this middle courtroom and why do you sit up in the judge's chair? Does this look intimidating for citizens and messengers that are coming in to feel like they're coming into a courtroom and that you're the judge up on the dais in the big leather chair with the smush buttons? And I asked every question I could think of when I went to do my investigation. And I watched people succeed in the process. I watched people fail in the process. I think I watched more people fail than actually were successful. So I want to interview Craig Calloway, and I would love
WPG
for that to take place. I used to have his cell phone number. I don't know if I do anymore. We'll be back. Our final break. We'll be back in 3 minutes. One more power segment. Don't go away. Not to be missed. It's Hurley in the Morning on WPG.
Hurley in the Morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 56 minutes past the hour. I wish I could roll the clock back at least 30 or 45 or 60 minutes, because joining us now is the person that everyone has been speaking about, and in a Hurley in the Morning exclusive, we have Craig Calloway here joining the program live. Craig, let's just make sure everybody knows this is not some kind of put-on or anything. You are Craig Calloway, correct?
The last time I looked in the mirror, yes, I am.
And I think your voice is very recognizable to the extent that people know that it is you. So you've been accused directly on this program and in print, in digital print, by a writer from the Philadelphia Inquirer of committing criminal activities. Tell us what you've been doing and anything that you want to share.
Yes, the process is, Harry, as George has stated, that the messenger is supposed to give to the voter, and we all know that it happens sometimes, but most of the times it does not happen. But the intent of the legislature was to increase the participation of voters in the state of New Jersey, and they have used the messenger method as well as the regular vote by mail method to increase that. We, our team of people who have mastered this, we are at an advantage for one, because we understand the law, we know the system, and we know the people of Atlanta City. So therefore, we will be the ones who will be doing all of the work, interacting with voters, getting them to participate in the process. But technically, the informant violated Title 19, not me.
Craig, did he technically or did he literally violate it?
I don't think that he understood, but that is a technical violation of the regulation. But there are always technical violations. But of course, when it's me or when it's someone on the other side who's not receiving the support of me and others, they will cry that it's fraud, that it's illegal, that it's we want the FBI to tell everybody to investigate.
Craig, I just want you to know, and I want all our listeners to know, Councilman Tibbet's mic is still on. He's listening at the moment. Councilman Gilliam is here, and his mic is still on. Councilman Tibbet said something about, I don't know how long ago it was now, Craig, 10 minutes ago, something like that, that as recently as 2 weeks ago, Mayor Don Guardian directly asked for you to work for him. Is that
WPG
a truthful
Talk
statement?
Radio,
Because I think that's
104.1.
very important for people to understand. If on one hand they're calling out the crimes are going on, but then you're being asked to go work for the other side, then I guess it can't be a crime, because I know Don Guardian and he wouldn't want to be involved with anybody that's committing a crime. So what can you say about this?
Yes, it is correct, but it's a little bit longer ago. I can't be exact, but they have been trying to recruit me through different operatives to try to help them, and I said no, I'm not going to help. I don't agree with the way that Guardian has run the city as well as other people in Atlanta City, and I'm not going to support him. And I didn't, even though he has attempted, he has courted me and through operatives, and I can show you some texts and emails from people. But I happen to
boom, Harry, there you go.
Talk Radio 104.1.
I happened to sit next to Don Guardian at a function a couple months ago, and he asked me directly, and the creator of the heavens and the earth is a witness to what he said to me. He said, did I lose you? Do I still have your support? I said, you lost me, and I'm not supporting. He said, well, I can't win. That's what he said.
And Mr. Calloway, this is Councilman Gilliam.
Hey, Frank, come on,
tell the world that you do not work out of my headquarters.
I do not work out of Councilman Gilliam's headquarters. He has not paid me one penny for any services, and that's the truth. And the other side knows the truth as well. But all this is a distraction to try to get away from the real issue. And the real issue is that Don Guardian has failed the city of Atlantic City, and the people are not supporting him. And now he's trying to make it all about something illegal.
And Craig, you're making it very, very clear here that he asked you to do for him what you are presently now not doing for him, correct?
And also what I did for him 4 years ago. And he knows how he won.
Boom, Harry, there you go.
He knows how he won, and he knows that there were operatives of his who worked with me to make sure that happened.
And Craig, you know, you and I go back a long way, and I know you did some very hard time in a different, point in your life. And I've said to a lot of people, I just can't envision that Craig would do something, to risk his freedom again, and that I believe you have just mastered the law as it relates to how this process can be utilized, whether it's messenger, mail-in for any purpose. The judges have all in this state codified the law that you don't have to be sick, you don't have to be at school, you don't have to whatever. You can be away on vacation. You can do it if you're here, well, and able to go to the voting machine, but you just prefer to vote by mail-in. So is there anything because it's a very salacious allegation, Craig, from the Philadelphia Inquirer, the informant, ex-law people, paid to do this and that. Is there anything to what they're saying?
No, because if it was, they would have locked me up. And the guy who wore the wire to try to trap me didn't. He wasn't paid. He voted his own ballot, and he's not from Atlantic City, so he voted for I guess it's Pleasantville ballot. I didn't fill it out. He filled it out. And then he gave me the messenger ballot for another voter. He gave it to me. I, in turn, made sure that voter got the ballot. So no one was disenfranchised.
Hold on one second, guys. 1 second. I just want to do a quick station identification.
104.1 FM and 1450 AM WPGG Atlantic City. Online at WPGTalkRadio.com.
Craig, please continue. Craig Calloway, Frank Gilliam, George Tibbett. I'm Hurley in the Morning. You're listening to WPG. People are writing certain things. They're saying certain things. Here is Craig Calloway to speak for himself exactly what he is doing and what he is not doing. And, Craig, let me hit you with this one. Are you doing everything by the letter of the law?
Absolutely, I am. And, Harry, let me say this because you and Frank talked about the people try to make a difference between the vote by mail process versus going to the poll. I just want to correct because it's a misunderstanding. And for the record, a vote by mail via messenger is the most scrutinized vote there is in the state of New Jersey. So you can't get any more scrutinized than the messenger process is, as you noticed, as you saw, what the people have to go through in order to be a messenger, in order for the voter to receive their ballot.
I actually watched a process where somebody was who they were, but their signature changed because of an issue where they could no longer write the way that they used to, and they had to reprove that they are who they are. I will only say this, not just to support Craig or Frank or George or anything, just to be fair. This person has since passed away, but he was a great friend of mine since I was a child, and there were a lot of things going on about 15, 20 years ago. He wanted to prove how easy it was to vote at the polling places where you don't have to show any ID. You just walk in and say, that's me. He went into multiple Atlantic City polling places and just saw a signature that hadn't, or a name that hadn't been signed yet. He said, that's me right there. He voted all over. His votes were never challenged.
WPG Talk Radio,
that's an excellent and fair point that Craig's making. The paper ballot is much more examined and scrutinized than anybody that goes to the polls.
Right.
Craig, anything else that you want to share that either has been said or written about all during this campaign that just isn't true that you'd like to set the record straight?
Well, again, the vote by mail process, either by messenger or through the mail, is the superior vote. It's a cleaner vote of all votes in the state of New Jersey. So they got it wrong again. So this whole thing is to try to, as I said, deflect from the fact that the current mayor feels as though that he's not doing well.
Craig, here was another serious allegation that you're paying people to then vote how you're telling them to vote. That is a very serious allegation. I think you deserve the opportunity to respond to that.
Right, false. That is correct. That is false. No, we do not pay people to vote. People who come out to Mays Landing, it's an arduous task, and people are paid for their time, hours, sometimes out here going through this process, and they are paid for that. And there's nothing illegal about that. And that's exactly what we are doing. But I'm going to say this, right? Are there technicalities where there might be some minor infractions? Absolutely, and it always is, but more so at the polls. Do you think that when people come within 100 feet with the van to drop the people off to vote, you think that they are not in that van just before that voter gets out telling them who to vote for? Absolutely they are. And when they're in that van, and they was in my van, you think I'm going to tell them to go vote for my opponent? Don't be naive. This happens all the time. And then I'm trying to make this thing like the voting in New Jersey is so pristine and everything is exact at the polls. It's the opposite. It is the opposite. It's like I said, the vote by mail process is a superior way of voting.
One thing I will say, and Craig, you know I've been here for the last 26 years on air, and you've been around all those years and before then. I have to say this because it's accurate and it's only fair to say it. Depending on who messenger ballots or absentee ballots or mail-in ballots, all these different terms, depending on who they benefit. Sometimes it's glorified and it's so happy, joy, popular, and sometimes it's bring in the FBI, the CIA, and everybody. And I think I'm telling the truth on that point. Depending on who wins, who the benefactor is, this has been perceived as very popular, even unmentioned, as opposed to if it's not going to who certain people want, then all hell breaks loose. Is that a fair comment?
Radio 104.1.
That is a fair and it's an accurate comment. And those who want I'm being courted by people every day Republicans and Democrats asking for my help every day. So they can try to say that I'm a hired gun by Gilliam. Incorrect.
I want to ask Councilman Gilliam because you've been accused
Councilman Gilliam is an honorable man, and he's not doing anything illegal. He wouldn't in any way, shape, or form support anyone doing anything illegal, even if he was the benefactor of it. He would not support that because he's an honorable person.
And to those watching the clock, we're preempting the Brian Kilmeade show for a little bit, and we'll finish this up, and then we'll let everybody get on to their day. But this was just so relevant, so breaking news oriented in an interview that no one else has been able to score. And I thank you, Craig, for the opportunity to be able to ask you these questions so that people can hear a different side that they haven't heard yet. Councilman Gilliam, because so oftentimes you've been hit with that you hired him and that's been all straightened out here. Councilman Tibbet, I want to give you all an opportunity. If there's anything that I've missed that I should have asked Craig, is there anything you want to ask?
No, I just think that it's important for the voters to understand Tuesday is a very important day for everybody to come out and vote, whether you're going to the polls or you're utilizing messengers. It's also important for people to understand that this is the season where folks come out with misnomers and things of that nature, and I find it very disingenuous for a leader like Don Guardian to say he wants another term, but to try to amass a harebrained scheme like this shows the people of Atlantic City that he no longer needs to be our mayor. And on November the 7th, I believe the people will come out and actually speak those sentiments.
Craig, let me ask you, and then we'll give George a question if he has of you, or a comment to close as well. What do you have to say about this sting operation involving, quote unquote, an alleged informant and several former New Jersey state troopers? What do you have to say about that sting operation?
Nice try, but they failed because I'm not doing anything wrong. And I haven't done anything wrong. And I questioned rather if it was legal for them to do what they did in setting this thing up, because they're not law enforcement.
Tippett brought that up, and I think it's a fair point. They might be like choking on their Cheerios right now hearing you say it, but if they're not law enforcement, if it's not a sanctioned law enforcement operation, because as you know it all too well, Craig, people that aren't law enforcement can get deputized and can be part of something if legal controlling authorities pick them and select them to be a part of that. But this does not appear to be that. This appears to be that the Guardian campaign put together a sting operation to try to take out their opponent.
Absolutely. And
absolutely. That's exactly what they did, and that is illegal. That part is definitely illegal. And if you listen to the conversation that I had with him, if they recorded it, there was no question about, are you going to give me money for voting? And then I said, yeah, hey, I'm here. Hey, it's $30. Vote for this one. This is not. That was not the conversation.
So no money was paid in exchange for how someone would vote. Any money that was exchanged was part of, if money was exchanged, because I'm not privy to any of this.
Money was exchanged.
It would have been just
money
like
was
any
exchanged for the work that he performed,
like any other messenger, correct?
And his time. That's correct. That is correct.
And the reason that I opened my program the way that I did, and I was just so clear on the point, is you're operating. I watched you. You're operating in the bright of daylight. There's right in the
no one's hiding in a dark room, and you come in this dark room and vote for Frank and vote for this one, and here's your $30 for doing what I just asked you to do. No.
Councilman Tippett, what would you like to say in closing?
You didn't hear Craig say he would be willing to give you the text messages and the emails. We want to bring that to the forefront from Guardian operatives begging him to work for him, number one. And Harry, once again.
Hold on right there. You've done it again, Tippett. Craig, would you be available to provide information that would confirm this level of coordination?
Yes, I will. I'll share it with you. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
I appreciate that, and I will make it public. Councilman Tippett, I'm going to give you a big assist on that one. I missed that. Go ahead.
Harry, you see how our camp is. It's not about running mates. We're family. You attack one of us, you attack all of us. And we're coming hard for you when you hurt somebody in our family. I proved Miss Cameron to be a complete phony today, starting out with reading that prepared statement. Her fake address from Ventnor, where we sat on her for over 3 months, her and her husband walking out of her house. But I protected her because of grade school stuff. Remember, November 7th, fire the liars. It's time for Don Guardian and his group of stunt dummies to go.
Craig, anything else you want to share real quick, because we've got to get out of here in the next few seconds?
I will get, as I said, Harry, I will get that information to you as soon as possible, and thank you for allowing me for people to hear my side.
Thank you, Craig. I really need that, because that's going to corroborate something and make it impossible for someone to deny. If we didn't have evidence, they could just say Craig's lying. Well, look, he went to prison. He's a liar. So having corroboration is big.
Mm-hmm.
Harry,
I thought I'd get a chuckle out of you there, Craig. I got a chuckle. I earned that chuckle. All right, I'll wait for that, Craig.
WPG.
Please get it to me.
Harry, now watch the next 3 days. All the negative stuff that comes out of the Guardian campaign on us. Everything from us kicking the dog to spitting on the sidewalk. We've been told by police officers that like us what they've been doing and planning. This Chris Fisciello is a dirty guy. He's a weasel, and one of the biggest reasons why people do not like Don Guardian anymore. He doesn't realize the damage that Chris Fisciello has done to him and his reputation. Right.
Gentlemen, we have to conclude. Frank,
and again,
take care.
Thank you, Craig.
Harry, I want to again thank you for the opportunity to speak to the listening audience. November the 7th is going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day because I get to stand next to guys that we call family, like George Tibbet for Council at Large, Jeffrey Funk Leroy for Council at Large, and Moses Delgado for Council at Large, Column A, Frank Gilliam for Mayor.
WPG Talk
again,
Radio,
God bless you all. Thank you.
To all of our listeners of the Hurley in the Morning program and WPG, thank you for all that you do. We will be back in less than 19 hours and 54 minutes. That's how we usually sign off. The Brian Kilmeade Show begins, already in progress right now. Have a great day. And look, because on my digital platforms, I'm going to be making available at WPGTalkRadio.com, HarryHurley.com, Harry Hurley on Facebook. Here on air tomorrow, I will make whatever information is provided to me that will prove certain communications. I will make that available to the public. Have a great day, and we look forward to being back here with you tomorrow. Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno at 7:35. We have an absolutely loaded Thursday program. See you then.
104.1 FM and 1450 AM WPGG Atlantic City. Online at WPGTalkRadio.com.